My beloved child, don't scroll. This isn't a coincidence. This is a divine appointment. You've been holding it all together, smiling through the pain, fighting silent battles, hoping someone, anyone, would understand. And now here you are, not by accident, but by my design. Because today everything changes. This isn't just another video. This is me, your father, speaking directly to the place in you that's been waiting for healing, longing for peace, aching for purpose. You've carried the weight long enough. You've survived the storm long enough. And I have seen every tear, heard every whisper, and felt every crack in your soul. But now, I am moving. I am restoring. I am answering. From the day you were born, I have been gently knocking, never forcing entry, never turning away in frustration, but faithfully standing by, calling to you with love, softly, through moments, through others, through the very ache in your soul. And now here you are, letting me in. I understand it wasn't easy. Life wore you down, disappointments hardened your hope, and fear stood guard at the gates of your soul. Yet still, something deeper within you, something I planted long ago, reached out. It was my spirit stirring, reminding you that you were made for me. When you opened your heart, I did not come with judgment or a list of demands. I came with celebration. Heaven rejoiced, angels sang. Your opening was my invitation, and I entered with the fullness of who I am. Love, mercy, peace, and promise. I know what it cost you to relinquish control. I know the questions that still linger in the corners of your mind. But your act of faith, however small it seemed to you, was a monumental shift in the spiritual realm. It broke chains, silenced lies, and unlocked doors that had been sealed shut by years of hurt and self-doubt. And I want you to know this is only the beginning. There is so much I want to show you, teach you, and accomplish through you. Because you did this, everything is changing. You have stepped into the life you were always meant to live. Not one without struggle, but one where you are no longer alone. A life where every step forward is guided by my hand. You did it, my child, and I am here, always. From the moment your heart softened and welcomed my presence, the atmosphere around your life began to tremble with divine movement. Though your eyes could not see it, the invisible barriers that once seemed immovable began to crack under the authority of my spirit. Chains forged by old wounds, long-held regrets, and fears whispering lies in your quietest hours started to fall away like fragile dust. Powers and principalities that had claimed territory in your mind and emotions were stripped of their hold, and in their place, light surged forward, reclaiming ground once lost. Demonic schemes crafted to confuse you began unraveling under the force of my voice, echoing within your soul. Angelic hosts assigned to your destiny before time began received new instructions. Divine blueprints released from my throne for the restoration of every broken corner of your being. Foundations buried beneath years of disappointment were uncovered and fortified with fresh layers of hope, truth, and restoration. My timing, which always seemed so distant, suddenly merged with your present reality, pulling hidden promises closer. Doors you didn't even realize existed began to crack open as my favor preceded you into places where you once felt unworthy. Patterns of pain running deep in your family line began to be interrupted, cut off at the root because of your decision to receive me sincerely. The spiritual atmosphere over your home shifted. The heaviness in the air began to lift as my peace settled in. Those around you may not have noticed the transformation taking shape, but the kingdom of darkness recognized the change immediately. The banner over your life was rewritten. Where despair once ruled, destiny now reigns. Where torment roamed, divine purpose advances with authority. The battlefield that once overwhelmed you has become a platform for my glory to be revealed through your story. Though your natural eyes still see ordinary surroundings, A sacred war has already been won on your behalf, and the spoils, joy, healing, clarity, breakthrough are arriving in your days, moment by moment. You may feel as though nothing has changed, but I want you to grasp something eternal. A single act of surrender doesn't just change your life. It shifts the world around you. It rewrites what would have happened, alters the enemy's plans, ignites movements in heaven on your behalf. You are now walking in a new realm. Though it will unfold gradually in ways you may not always understand, trust me with what is unseen. Trust that I am building, moving, breaking, mending, and aligning because you finally allowed me to begin. What happened in that sacred moment is more powerful than any earthly achievement because it echoes through eternity. What you are about to witness in your life will confirm that even though you couldn't see it then, everything truly changed the moment you said yes. The boundaries you once raised, carefully crafted from pain, survival, and years of emotional isolation, began to fracture the moment I entered. These defenses had become your protection, your refuge, your way of keeping the world and me at a distance. I watched you try to shield yourself from harm, layer after layer, turning your inner world into a fortress that kept both danger and healing at bay. But my love is not stopped by stone or silence. When you welcomed me, my presence didn't come with pressure. It came gently, wrapping around your broken pieces like a healing balm. The fortresses weakened, not because you were forced to let go, but because my love held more power than every fear that built them. Each wall you built, formed through betrayal, silence, disappointment, or unanswered prayers, stood tall for years, but none was too high for me to reach over. As my love flooded in, not with noise, but with holy warmth, those walls heard a sound they never had before. The steady rhythm of unconditional devotion. I did not tear them down violently. I simply overwhelmed them with kindness. They crumbled, not in chaos, but in surrender. And as the debris fell, you began to feel again, not all at once, but like a sunrise slowly waking the soul from slumber. Memories stirred. Emotions long buried began to rise. This wasn't regression. It was resurrection. You were not falling apart. You were coming alive. Without those walls, you were finally able to breathe freely, without fear of what might enter next. And instead of vulnerability bringing danger, it invited intimacy. I stepped into those sacred inner places no one else had touched, the corners of your soul where your truest self was hiding. I saw the parts you called unlovable and named them beautiful. I met the version of you even you avoided, and I embraced it with joy. My child, this is what I have always longed for. Not perfection or performance, but permission. Permission to be near, to hold you without expectation, to heal you without judgment. As the inner barricades fell, your heart no longer echoed with emptiness, but began to carry the steady hum of my spirit moving within you. And the beauty is, even as your heart remains tender and healing, it no longer needs walls, it has me. I am your covering now, your defense, your dwelling place, your strength when storms arise again. You don't need to hide anymore. You don't need to fear being known. Your heart was never meant to be a prison. It was meant to be a home. And now, with my presence flowing freely through every hallway of your soul, it finally is. You believed you had to be strong, composed, and in control, even when the weight inside felt unbearable. You became so skilled at silencing your sorrow that even those closest to you couldn't see the ache beneath your smile. But I did. I noticed every trembling moment behind closed doors, every silent cry muffled into a pillow, every attempt to keep your pain from leaking through your voice. You thought hiding your emotions would preserve your dignity, but to me, those tears were sacred. They carried the essence of your honesty, the proof you still felt, still longed, still hoped, even when life tried to numb you. When those tears fell, I didn't turn away. I drew nearer. I leaned in as a father does when his child speaks without words. Your tears became a language heaven understood perfectly, a cry bypassing intellect, inviting me directly into the heart of your truth. And in that moment, something divine happened. Each tear washed away fragments of grief that clung to you like shadows. Each drop released emotions you thought you had to control to survive. What you called weakness, I called worship, because it meant you were finally letting go of pretending and beginning to trust me with your raw self. There is no shame in emotion. What the world told you to suppress, I welcome. In fact, I collect each tear, not one ignored or forgotten. They are not wasted. They are woven into your healing. The vulnerability that shook you was not a sign of falling apart, but a signal your soul was being purified from pain it carried too long. Even now, I am using those sacred moments as the start of a deeper transformation within you. For every tear you shed in silence, I am preparing joy that will come abundantly, not forced laughter or shallow happiness, but deep joy, rooted, enduring, unshakable. Because I know what it cost you to cry. I know how tightly you held everything together, and I honor that. I do not rush your healing. I do not scold your sorrow. I sit beside you in it and turn it into something beautiful. I take your tears and sow them into your tomorrow, where fruit will grow from places once barren. The honesty of your emotion is building a bridge between us that nothing in this world can shake. And from now on, when tears come again, not from grief but from wonder, you will remember how holy even the weeping was because it marked the beginning of your freedom. The moment your hands released what they could no longer hold, heaven witnessed something greater than victory through striving. It was the triumph of trust. You didn't lay everything down out of exhaustion alone. You chose to believe in something greater than your own strength, something more dependable than your limited control. In that sacred act of release, you didn't lose power. You stepped into a realm of divine empowerment only surrender can unlock. You had spent so long holding everything together, carrying burdens you were never meant to bear, planning outcomes you couldn't predict, managing emotions overflowing silently in your chest. It wasn't failure that brought you to me. It was wisdom born from battle. You understood self-reliance, though noble, often leaves the soul depleted and distant from true peace. So you stopped resisting me, not out of defeat but recognition. You saw me not as a rescuer who comes only in crisis, but as the steady foundation always available, even when you tried to fix things alone. This surrender wasn't collapse, it was a rise. You stood taller in spirit when you knelt before me with everything in your hands. That's when I stepped in, not to replace your effort, but to redeem it. I took every fragment of your struggle and began weaving them into a new structure, not built on fear or pressure, but on grace and alignment. Now you are no longer operating on empty. You move from overflow. You no longer react out of panic. You respond through peace. What once wore you out now strengthens you, because my spirit supplies what your strength never could. The pressure to have it all figured out has lifted because you've discovered the truth. You were never meant to walk alone. Your surrender was not the end of your capability, but the beginning of collaboration with me. Every step forward carries the weight of my presence, not just your own willpower. When people wonder how you're still standing, they won't see burnout, they'll see glory. Not because everything is perfect, but because you've tapped into a source that never runs dry. This isn't the surrender the world calls giving up. No, this is what victory looks like in the kingdom. This is power perfected in reliance. This is beauty born from yielding. You now move not by striving, but in rhythm with my heartbeat. And because of that, my strength is yours. for every moment, season, mountain, and valley. You finally discovered true might doesn't come from holding tightly, but from placing it all in my hands. You may not have seen me when your strength felt depleted and your path blurred by confusion, but I was there, closer than your next breath, standing quietly between your last ounce of hope and the breaking point. I never let you collapse fully, even when you were moments from giving up. Those nights you stared at the ceiling, wondering about your pain's purpose, I held your soul from the inside. When your voice was too tired to pray and your thoughts too heavy for words, my spirit interceded for you with divine understanding. I carried you through breakdowns no one knew about, through burdens you never dared share. While surrounded by people yet feeling invisible, I gently spoke your name in the silence. I steadied your heartbeat when anxiety tried to take over. I gave you strength to rise, even when your mind urged you to stay in bed. It wasn't coincidence that courage rose out of nowhere just when you needed it most. That was me, breathing life into your spirit. You didn't realize how many times I shielded your heart from breaking completely. Every time your steps faltered, I stepped in beside you, not forcing you forward, but walking with your pain, ensuring you never endured it alone. I provided just enough grace for each moment, even when your emotions said otherwise. When days blurred in fatigue and you forgot what joy felt like, I worked quietly beneath the surface, sowing strength into the soil of your struggle. Every sigh, shaky breath, and pause where you thought of quitting, it all mattered to me. Never once did I judge your low moments. Instead, I honored your perseverance and whispered endurance into the places where your will was breaking. You thought you were alone, but I was holding your invisible battles with reverence. When fear tried to paralyze you, I surrounded you with supernatural calm. When despair painted your thoughts in darkness, I illuminated your path, one step at a time. Not ahead, but just enough for your next faithful move. You survived, not by strength alone, but because I secretly fortified your spirit. Now that your eyes are opening to my nearness, you will recognize how present I have been all along. That mysterious peace that kept appearing in your storm, that was me. The resilience you doubted, that was my endurance poured into your bones. Now, you're not just surviving, you're awakening. You stand in strength, forged through fire, not your own but mine, shared freely because you let me in. You can move forward now, not in dread but assured that I am beneath your weary spirit, lifting it every time the world tries to weigh you down again. You have reached a sacred threshold where your soul is no longer merely surviving but ready to be restored in places you didn't realize were broken. Much of your life was spent patching wounds just enough to keep moving, pretending some things didn't hurt as deeply as they did. You learned to function amid inner chaos, to smile with a heart never fully exhaled. But now everything has changed, because you have allowed me not only into your story, but into your very core. You gave me the keys to hidden rooms, the ones locked by fear and memory. I entered gently, not to accuse your pain, but to bring transformation with my touch. Healing is not always sudden. It is sacred, layered, and intentional. I am not rushing or skipping anything. I go deep because I love every part of you, especially those you thought too damaged to repair. I walk with you into early wounds, echoes of abandonment, lingering shame, and disappointments disguised as failure. I speak life into your earliest lies, untie knots formed when trust broke, rebuild your inner world on my truth rather than past experiences. Where others overlooked your hurt or dismissed your tears, I lean in. I feel every ache you tried to forget. I understand not just what happened to you, but what it created inside you. I am here to make all things new. I see how trauma shaped your beliefs, fear taught you to hide, rejection tried to redefine your worth. But now those things no longer have permission to remain because I have arrived. Not only as Savior, but as healer. Healing with me isn't erasing your past, it's redeeming it. I will use even the shattered parts to build something stronger, rooted in grace, not performance. This healing will surprise you with its softness and safety. You will become safe in your own soul again. I will teach you to trust yourself through my lens, to believe restoration isn't just possible, it's your inheritance. Yes, old wounds may resurface, emotions may conflict with faith, and you might wonder if anything is changing, but I will be there throughout. I will keep healing, layer by layer, memory by memory, scar by scar. I am not in a hurry and will never tire of walking this road with you. What once seemed to define you will become a testimony of how love reached you in your most vulnerable place. When you look back, shame will fade. You will see the miracle that happened when you let me in completely. This is the start of the restoration you longed for, and I won't stop until your heart is whole, your spirit light, and your identity unshakable in me. The work has begun, and I will faithfully complete it. You've carried so much guilt, revisiting old choices and moments, wondering if they disqualified you from what could be. You wrestled quietly with your conscience, replaying scenes hoping they'd fade, but finding they still echo. I want you to understand this foundational truth. Your past does not intimidate me. I have seen every step, fall, and wrong turn. Yet I stand here calling you forward, not backward. My presence doesn't highlight failings, but brings a blueprint, a vision for your future beyond your imagination. My heart beats for your redemption, not punishment. The enemy tries to tether you to yesterday with shame, fear, and paralysis. But I paid the price that silences accusations. I removed condemnation so you can rise free of past burdens. Restoration is not a concept, but a promise. I made it long before you knew you needed it. I didn't choose you for perfection. I chose you because I see beyond mistakes. I see purpose, gifts yet to unfold, wisdom forged in pain, compassion born from adversity. You haven't missed your calling. You're awakening to it now. Your regrets won't be wasted. I'm turning them into lessons that bless others, testimonies that open doors for the lost. I specialize in building from rubble, taking what the world rejects and crafting something remarkable. Moments you wish to erase are being rewritten as scenes of triumph. You're not a project or problem to fix, but a masterpiece in progress. When I look at you, I see hope, not failure, a life unfolding into beauty, strength, and clarity. My mercy is constant. My grace overflows because of who I am, relentless in reclaiming what belongs to you. You're not starting from scratch, but from grace. I have prepared doors ahead that require no perfection, only willingness to walk through with me. So let go of the idea your past disqualifies you. It doesn't. You're equipped with empathy, resilience, humility. You're not damaged. You're prepared. Your future will be defined not by scars behind, but by the power that raised you. Let me restore what time tried to steal. Let me write the next chapters with you, not in fear, but trust. I'm not here to dwell on the past, but to build what comes next. Nothing about your journey is beyond redemption. Every heavy moment, the silent conversations, missed opportunities, people you couldn't save, abandoned paths, is already being transformed. What you once saw as failure, I now hold as raw material for something beautiful. I'm not asking you to forget, but to see through my eyes. In your mind, you replay mistakes carved deep grooves. But I see moments where your heart was tender, your longing for goodness, the hidden battles no one noticed. That's where my work begins, not in some perfect version, but in the reality of what's been. I don't erase your story, I repurpose it. What made you feel disqualified becomes the ground for compassion. That relationship you mourned, I will use its pain to birth deeper love in you for the lonely. That season of rebellion, I will shape into wisdom, freeing others. Every regret tear becomes an anchor for someone else's rescue. Testimonies aren't just success stories, they're grace meeting brokenness and turning it into purpose. I'm not waiting for a clean record. I'm working with what is, even silence, wasted years, dead ends, delays, all woven into something no human hand could script. You focused on what went wrong and missed how much you grew. Your sensitivity, discernment, awareness of others, fruits born from a life acquainted with pain. Now, instead of running from regrets, you will stand on them, not as shame, but as healing platforms. Doors will open where you speak what once silenced you. You'll comfort others with the same comfort I gave you. Your words will carry weight, anchored in experience, truth refined by fire. There is no testimony without a test, and you, my beloved, have walked enough to testify powerfully. I have seen it all, yet I choose you to carry my light, not despite your past, but through it. The world tells you to bury regrets. I tell you to place them in my hands so I can resurrect them. They won't define you, they will glorify me. As you walk this new path, people will be drawn to your realness, the honesty and depth, not because you hid pain well, but because you allowed me to transform it openly. So stop hiding from your history. See it as the soil I'm using to grow something eternal. Your regrets aren't the end, but the beginning of the message I'm writing through you. I've been with you through every ache, loss, and silent moment you wondered if anything meaningful could come from your endurance. I know how deep it ran, how wounds seeped into your dreams, identity, and ability to believe again. But hear this, nothing you endured is useless in my hand. Every ounce of pain, emotional, spiritual, physical, has been gathered with care. I never let your suffering vanish into the void. I preserved it like precious seed, knowing it will produce something sacred. I saw the loneliness, betrayal, silent struggles no one applauded. I witnessed heartbreaks without words, disappointments buried beneath routines. While others moved on, I stayed, sowing grace into those moments, planting unseen purpose within ruins. You didn't feel me working, but I was. I never wasted a tear or buried cry. Seasons felt barren, but beneath the surface, roots grew, not of bitterness but endurance, not resentment but deep compassion. Now in this surrender's light, hidden growth breaks through. Pain that once dismantled you now serves as the ground from which your voice, strength, and calling rise. Here the old becomes new. You will minister not from theory but survival. Lead not from position but authenticity. Your empathy will touch lives textbooks never could. You carry an anointing pressed from adversity, not applause. Others may envy your light, but only you and I know it was forged in darkness. Every scar now proves healing is real and possible. You are defined not by what happened, but by what I am doing through it. The world values moments that look victorious, but I bring victory through what looked like defeat. What nearly broke you births wisdom that rescues others. I use your experiences to reach where sermons cannot, because truth lived has divine power. You are becoming a garden of purpose, watered by tears and nourished by resilience. What you thought disqualified you, I empower. Those who wounded you won't have the final word. Your purpose will. Seasons of silence weren't empty, but sacred preparation. Every step forward is on territory pain cleared for your destiny. This is the beauty of my plan. Nothing is wasted, and all surrendered becomes fruitful. Your suffering is not an end, but the foundation of your impact. I promise harvest will come from places you thought lifeless. Purpose blooms from soil where sorrow once lived. You didn't know I was there when your room was quiet and your mind loud, when the ticking clock reminded you of passing time with no change. You lay awake, not from restless body, but heavy heart carrying unspoken questions. In moments when shadows stretched across your ceiling and hope seemed buried beneath delay's weight, you wondered where I was. You whispered my name, sometimes with faith, sometimes with doubt. Know this absolutely. I heard every sound, even those unspoken. I was not absent. I did not turn away or grow weary. I did not forget you. On the contrary, I was closest when you felt most alone. I saw tears you blinked away, heard thoughts too unsafe to share. While your heart screamed silently for clarity, I wrapped you in peace, quiet but real. I was not pacing anxiously. I sat beside you, patient and present, holding your soul steady when emotions threatened to pull you under. You may not have seen me, but I softened sharp thoughts and gave you strength for one more night, again and again. It wasn't your strength alone. It was mine, flowing quietly through your weary spirit like a gentle stream through cracked earth. Silence didn't mean I ignored you. It was me teaching you to recognize my nearness beyond noise. I never forgot your situation for a moment. Though nothing seemed to happen outwardly, I was shifting pieces behind the scenes, aligning timing, preparing hearts, clearing paths, redirecting unseen opposition. Your waiting season wasn't punishment, but a sacred space where trust was refined and intimacy with me grew in absence of clarity. Now, looking back, you'll see even restless nights held you, that sudden peace settling in your heart. That was me whispering reassurance. That breath caught after overwhelm. That was my presence like a blanket of quiet strength. I never left you, not when you questioned me, were angry, or felt abandoned. I stayed, faithfully, silently, steadily, because I love you too much to leave, even when you can't feel me. Those nights were never wasted. They became soil of endurance, fire refining your trust, sacred hours where your spirit learned to hear me without words. Even as new nights come, you'll know I remain, always, holding your heart's broken pieces and shaping them into something unshakable. A quiet, sacred moment came when you let me touch what you'd hidden so carefully. Those wounds were not just pain reminders, but monuments to survival etched deep in your spirit. You learned to carry them silently, smiling through the sting, fearing what would happen if truly seen. But I saw them all along, never looking away. When you finally offered them, not polished, not rehearsed, but raw surrender, I received them with deepest tenderness. I didn't flinch, scold, or ask why not sooner. I knelt with you and began gently breathing life into places you thought permanently broken. I never expected unscarred hearts. I asked for your heart as it was, cracked, aching, brave, and in giving it, you granted what no one else could, permission to restore what pain disfigured. Your scars became my canvas. I held the parts you avoided, stories never spoken aloud, memories you flinched to revisit. These are now holy ground where my love paints something redemptive. This is not cosmetic healing. I'm not here to make the past seem distant. I'm here to redeem it so fully you will one day say, "Look what the Lord has done." You won't fear remembering. Memory will remind you of grace, not grief. Where you bled, you will bloom. What made you shrink will cause others to rise. I don't erase the past, I reauthor its meaning. I will use these parts, the ones you thought disqualified you, to carry deepest power. You will speak with compassion because you suffered. You will lift others not from a pedestal, but from identification. Your story shifts from survival to strength. I know you didn't want to be marked by pain, but now you will be marked by redemption. These scars will define your identity and declare my involvement. They will remind the world healing is possible, nothing beyond my reach, and beauty can come from ashes. I will cause others to see me in your walk, forgiveness, and choice to love despite being guarded. Healing's miracle doesn't just change your life, it transforms every space your life touches. Don't hide scars and shame. Let them shine as proof you walked through fire and emerged full of light. Let them sing truth that I never stopped working, even when silence seemed to reign. Remember, my child, I am still creating. The process unfolds. The beauty I bring from your scars will glorify me more than any spotless past, because you trusted me with what hurt most, and that trust opened the door to divine beauty. You may not realize it yet, but every time you chose me over convenience, truth over silence, love over bitterness, something shifted far beyond natural sight. Those small choices, the moment you held your tongue when anger stirred, the quiet forgiveness no one saw, the kind word when judgment was easier, all mattered deeply. Obedience isn't always loud. Sometimes it's walking away from familiarity, uncertain of what's next. Sometimes it's doing right without applause, sowing faithfulness in dry soil, giving your best when no one seems to care. I saw those moments and counted each as seeds of eternal impact. You often wonder where the breakthrough is, forgetting I've already begun opening doors, just not always as expected. You see delay, I see development. You feel overlooked, I build foundations in unseen realms. I align people you haven't met, prepare places your name will be spoken, in rooms you never imagined. Your obedience, though unseen by others, is not invisible in heaven. It carries authority. It moves mountains spiritually. Each surrendered will, even trembling, uncertain, resounded like thunder before my throne. You thought it small, but I used it to reroute storms, cancel enemy plans, and establish blessings in your future. Even your waiting seasons were powerful because you kept choosing me amid silence. You may not see fruit yet, but roots of resilience, integrity, and trust grow deep. Since you built on obedience, not impulse or pride, what grows will weather any storm. I honor faithfulness, especially when costly. I pour reward where consistency took root. I know how tempting it was to compromise, go your own way, take shortcuts when the road was long. But you didn't. You stayed with me. You waited for my voice. You chose the narrow way, not perfectly, but persistently. And that released favor on your path. Doors are opening even now that no one can shut. The beauty is you won't need to force them. They will swing wide because of what you sowed. What I prepare won't require striving. It will flow naturally, established in your obedience. You don't have to chase opportunities. They are drawn to your obedience. What you thought unnoticed has become the key to what's next. In the days ahead, as you begin to walk through places you once only dreamed of, you'll come to understand that it was never about impressing. It was about being faithful. I am building something with you that only obedience could bring forth. Stay steady, stay soft, stay surrendered. You've already accomplished more in the unseen than you realize, and now it's time to watch those quiet yeses open undeniable doors. You had no idea what your simple yes would set in motion. You weren't trying to impress me. You weren't seeking favor. You simply chose me in a quiet moment, from a genuine place within your heart. Fear was loud. Uncertainty stood like a wall. Yet you said yes anyway. And that yes echoed into eternity. It wasn't the magnitude of your promise that moved my hand. It was the sincerity of your surrender. That single act of alignment has granted me full access to begin releasing what I've been preparing for you all along. Not merely material provision, though that will come. Not just answers to prayer, though they are on their way. I'm speaking of a flood of goodness designed by heaven itself, a blessing tailored to your calling, timed for your readiness, and layered with more meaning than you can currently comprehend. I have not forgotten what you laid down for me. I saw what you gave up when no one else noticed. I remember the prayers you whispered silently, the sacrifices no one acknowledged. Nothing is lost in my kingdom. Now that your heart has fully agreed with mine, I am unlocking what was held back. not as punishment, but in perfect timing. Some blessings must wait until your spirit matures enough to carry their weight. But you are ready now, not because you have figured everything out, but because your yes was not about understanding, it was about trust. And I honor that. You see, I never required you to have all the answers. I only needed your willingness. Now that I have it, doors are opening, doors sealed until your yes gave me permission to act beyond your expectations. This release won't come in predictable forms. It will surprise you. It will emerge where you thought only drought existed. It will arrive through unexpected people, through moments of divine alignment you couldn't have planned if you tried. This is not merely blessing, it is orchestration. I am weaving together strands that once seemed disconnected. Prayers from different seasons are being tied into one moment of breakthrough. Opportunities you thought were lost are being resurrected, because your heart is finally positioned to receive them without losing yourself. You won't have to chase or compete. What I am releasing is appointed, not just available. As this pours into your life, it will not overwhelm you. It will nourish you. It will affirm what you have quietly hoped for. It will clarify your identity. It will restore what striving stole. It will proclaim my faithfulness louder than your past ever could. This is not a reward. It is fulfillment. My promises are not prizes. They are extensions of my heart toward you. What I pour into your life now will not end with you. It will overflow into those around you, family, friends, even strangers who encounter your light. Your yes wasn't just about you. It was a signal to heaven that you are ready to become a vessel, and I will fill you until you overflow. Not just once, but wave after wave. Every need will be met, not just to comfort you, but to free you to bless others in my name. Watch now as what once felt like quiet surrender becomes the catalyst for a move of my hand so undeniable that only I can receive the glory. This is the beauty of your yes. It unlocks more than you will ever realize. You have spent so much of your life chasing approval, striving to measure up, trying to earn what I have always longed to give freely. You believed rest was reserved for after you had proven yourself, as if peace were a trophy at the end of exhaustion. But I never designed your life to be fueled by pressure. You were never meant to live in constant tension, bracing yourself for the next storm, trying to hold everything together out of fear it might fall apart if you stopped moving. You have carried weight that was never yours to bear, trying to control outcomes that were always mine to shape. But now, my beloved, everything is changing. This is the season where striving ends and abiding begins. You no longer need to fight for what I have already finished. My victory is not just a distant spiritual truth. It is your present reality. You are not working toward freedom. You are living from it. You are not chasing favor. You are standing in it. I am not calling you to activity, but to intimacy. I invite you into the rhythm of my grace, where rest does not mean resignation, but realignment. In this place, your value is not tied to performance. Your worth does not depend on how much you accomplish, how quickly you heal, or how many doors you force open. You are already complete in me. My work in you is not rushed, and I do not grow impatient with your pace. The world may try to convince you that rest is laziness, that slowing down is falling behind, but I say it is sacred. It is holy. It is where revelation is found. In your stillness, you will hear my voice more clearly than ever. In your calm, you will sense my guidance without confusion. You have walked through fire, and now I am calling you into peace. Not the peace that comes from favorable circumstances, but the peace that surpasses understanding, anchored solely in my presence. You will notice that as you stop trying to make things happen in your own strength, doors will begin to open by my hand. Provision will come not by force, but by favor. Healing will rise not by striving but through surrender. You won't have to prove yourself anymore because you have already been chosen. You have already been seen, accepted, and sealed with my promise. In this season, you are not overlooked. You are invited to exhale, to loosen your grip on outcomes and rest in the assurance that I am working all things together for good. You don't have to convince me to care. I already do. You don't have to earn my help. I have already given you access. And from this place of rest, your fruitfulness will multiply, because true power is not found in hustle, but in harmony with me. You will move with purpose, not panic. You will speak with clarity, not confusion. You will walk in peace, not pressure. This is the shift you have waited for. Not a change of scenery, but a change of spirit. Let me teach you to live lighter, walk slower, trust deeper. Let me show you what it means to be carried by grace, not driven by fear. This is not weakness, it is wisdom. This is not quitting, it is choosing a higher way. Come to me and I will give you rest, not just for your body, but for your soul. In that rest, I will do more through you than you could ever do in your own strength. This is the gift of my victory. No longer something you must chase, but a place where you belong. There was a moment, a sacred turning point, when your soul exhaled its constant tension, when the burden you had been carrying for far too long finally slipped from your shoulders and fell into my hands. You didn't announce it aloud, but deep within, you surrendered what you were never meant to fix. I saw you reach the end of your own solutions, not with despair, but with openness. That moment was not failure. It was freedom. You tried so hard for so long, didn't you? Piecing things together with your strength, trying to hold others together while you silently broke. You analyzed, strategized, replayed conversations and outcomes, hoping your insight could mend what your heart longed to heal. But fixing things became a burden too heavy. It stole your joy, clouded your vision, and wore down your spirit. You were never meant to hold the universe together. That is my role. I have been waiting patiently, not because I didn't want to help, but because I will never force my way into what you are still trying to control. When you finally handed it over fully, without snatching it back in worry, I moved it. I didn't delay. I stepped in with all heaven's wisdom because I saw your surrender, not as giving up, but as the key that allowed my power to work where human effort fell short. What you couldn't untangle, I am unraveling with ease. What you couldn't reach, I am restoring from the inside out. I am not just repairing situations, I am redeeming the emotional toll they took on you. I am calming the chaos inside before addressing the storms around you, because my healing starts in the unseen. The beauty of your surrender is that it gives me space to reveal my divine strategy, one that doesn't rely on pressure, manipulation, or perfection, but on peace, timing, and transformation. I am not merely a cleaner of messes. I am the creator of new beginnings. That is what I am building now. Not a patched-up version of what you had, but something completely reimagined by my hands. As you continue to release what was never yours to fix, relationships you couldn't repair, outcomes you couldn't control, wounds you couldn't heal, I will fill the space with solutions you never imagined. You don't need to fear what happens when you stop managing every detail. My sovereignty is not fragile. I see what you cannot. I know what lies ahead, and I am orchestrating it all with love, purpose, and perfect timing. Your role is no longer to overthink or overwork. It is to stay close to me, listen for my whispers, and walk in trust rather than tension. There is rest here. There is clarity here. There is provision you haven't even imagined, waiting for the moment you stop holding your breath and start breathing in faith. I'm not asking you to abandon your responsibility. I'm asking you to walk in partnership. Do what you can and trust me with what you cannot. The more you live from this posture, the more you will see the beauty of my involvement. The pressure is lifting. The striving is dissolving. The fear of what if is replaced by the peace of even if. You finally stop trying to hold it all together. Because of that, I am holding you now, in the quiet, in the process, in the rebuilding. You may have once thought surrender meant stepping back, admitting defeat, or living with less. But now you are seeing the truth. It was never loss. It was always the gateway to divine empowerment. What you laid down in faith has not diminished you. It has made room for something infinitely greater. When you chose to release control, to trust my hand, even when you didn't understand my timing, you stepped into a strength that doesn't come from human will, but from eternal love. This strength isn't loud or boastful. It's not dependent on physical energy or emotional confidence. It is quiet, steady, and anchored in me. It holds when everything else feels unstable. It carries you when emotions waver and when the path ahead isn't clear. The strength I've given you through surrender cannot be replicated by effort. It is born in trust. In this posture of yieldedness, my spirit flows without resistance. Now that your hands are no longer clenched around outcomes, I can move through you in ways that were once impossible. I can speak more clearly, lead more directly, and pour more fully because you are no longer fighting control, you're listening. And in listening, you're aligning. The more you lean into me, the more resilient you become, not by being harder, but by being softer in the right places. Humility replaces heaviness. Dependence becomes your superpower. You are no longer burdened by the need to prove anything, because my grace has proven everything. You don't need to manufacture strength. It flows naturally from your connection with me. Your heart, once weighed down by pressure, now beats in rhythm with my peace. You will begin to realize what once drained you no longer has the same power, because you now live from stability in me, not from striving. Where the world shouts about strength through dominance, I have shown you how to be strong through trust. Where others try to control through fear, I've taught you to lead through compassion. This is the strength that transforms atmospheres, not by commanding, but by carrying my presence. Your surrender has made you a carrier of something sacred. When you walk into a room, you won't just bring your experience, you will bring my spirit. Your words will carry authority, not because of volume, but because they come from a heart aligned with heaven. Your silence will speak peace. Your posture will reflect confidence that does not waver with circumstances. All of this flows from surrender, letting go of the need to be everything and allowing me to be everything through you. Even when you feel weak again, when uncertainty knocks or old habits resurface, this strength will not leave you. It's not circumstantial, emotional, or temporary. It's rooted in our union. As long as you stay close to me, it will keep renewing, restoring, and flowing through you without limit. Others will wonder how you stay steady. They will ask how you maintain such peace. You'll know the answer. It's not because of what you held on to, but because of what you handed over. This is the beauty of surrender. It doesn't diminish you. It creates space for me to be fully seen in you. When I am seen through you, mountains move, hearts open, and miracles begin. You have looked back over seasons of your life with quiet ache, wishing things had unfolded differently, wondering what might have been if pain hadn't interrupted your path. If delays hadn't stolen years, if timing had just felt more favorable. You measured seasons by missed opportunities and marked time with what-ifs, mourning years that seemed to pass without clarity or progress. But I remind you, I do not view time as you do. I don't just move through it, I master it. Nothing, not a single moment, has slipped beyond my reach. The years you believed wasted, I preserved. The days you dismissed as unfruitful, I watered. Even the waiting rooms of your life, the stillness you once called wasted, I have been using as sacred preparation. You thought you were standing still, but beneath it all, I was growing unseen roots of endurance, character, and spiritual depth. Now, because of your surrender and obedience, time is no longer slipping away, it's being redeemed. I restore what life scattered. I gather what was broken and weave it back into beauty. I redeem weeks spent in confusion, months lost to fear, years covered in regret. I do not rewind, I bring renewal. That means I can accelerate your destiny, not by rushing, but through perfect placement. I know exactly how to bring you into alignment with the right moments. Where you feared being behind, I am placing you right on schedule. What you thought would take a lifetime, I can do in a single season. My timing is never punitive, it is redemptive. Because you entrusted me with your journey, I will restore what delay tried to deny. Doors you believed closed forever will reopen, not by striving, but by my authority. Relationships fractured by misunderstanding will mend with grace beyond comprehension. Skills you feared lost will awaken, sharpened by time's shaping hand. The person you are today is not lesser than who you hoped to be. You are wiser, more compassionate, resilient, and aligned with what I am building. You haven't missed your moment, you have matured into it. My redemption doesn't rewind, it transforms. I make things better than they would have been. The dreams you thought buried, watch me breathe new life into them. The passions you left behind because of pain, I'm reigniting them with clarity and purpose. You are not too late. You are exactly on time for what I've prepared. Your past doesn't disqualify you. It has qualified you to carry a depth and wisdom the world desperately needs. Now I'm weaving those seasons into a testimony of my goodness, in and out of time. So don't grieve lost years, don't dwell on disappointment. Lift your eyes, the Redeemer of time is at work in you. I waste nothing, not a tear, deed, or delay. As you move forward, you will feel it, not in sudden bursts, but steady unfolding. Things will click, the past will become clearer. Doors will open with peace, not pressure. You will realize the time you thought lost was being transformed. Now it's your foundation, not your failure. Watch closely, my child. The days ahead hold more than you expected, not because they have more hours, but because they hold my hand. In my hand, nothing is ever truly lost. It is simply being prepared for glory. You spent much of your life wondering if you missed your moment, if connections passed you by, if you'd ever find the right people who truly see, believe, and walk beside you in purpose. The truth is, you were never overlooked, only being positioned. Every delay, every disconnection, every closed door was not rejection, but redirection. I was never late. I was making room for those who see your heart, not just your gift. Room for opportunities that uplift, not drain. Room for partnerships that complement, not compete. I've seen your quiet longing for community that feels like home. Environments where you're celebrated, not just tolerated. I've heard your unspoken prayers, buried under busyness and folded into worship. I answer them now, not with haste, but harmony. I'm aligning people walking their own journeys of refinement, people who carry integrity, love without expectation, speak life without agenda. These are covenant companions, not surface connections. I'm preparing hearts to meet yours, not by accident, but divine design. At the same time, I am preparing you, not just bringing the right people, but readying you to receive them. I've been healing the places that settled for less, feared misunderstanding, braced for betrayal. I'm removing residue from old relationships that left scars instead of seeds. No more chasing affirmation. No more shrinking to fit spaces never meant for you. This time, it will feel different. The daddy-ordained doors once sealed now swing open, not by chance but alignment. You won't fight for attention, manipulate entry, or compromise acceptance. Doors I open match your preparation and honor your process. You will step into spaces that recognize your voice, make room for your calling, multiply your impact, and the timing, oh, the timing, will finally make sense. Delays will reveal protection. Pauses will be preparation. Silence will be strategy. I orchestrate moments, not just movements. I connect your readiness with my perfect schedule. I bring convergence, not chaos. You will witness things come together that once felt impossibly distant. People, purpose, placement. It's not your job to force it. It's your calling to walk in step with me, trusting that as you stay surrendered, I stay sovereign. Let go of the pressure to build by your strength. Let me arrange, reveal, and bring the right voices, those who carry discernment, humility, and truth. When these moments come, and they will, you will know they were sent, not stumbled upon. Your spirit will recognize the divine. You won't feel anxious but assured. You won't feel behind. You will feel exactly on time. Because this is who I am. I go before you. I walk with you. I align everything you need to fulfill what I placed within you. Keep your heart open. Keep your eyes lifted. You're not waiting anymore. You're being positioned. What I am aligning now will carry you into the center of your calling. Between the chaos and pain, your spirit whispered prayers you didn't even realize. Quiet longings rose from your heart in nights without words, only tears. In your youth, grief, and wonder, you released cries that never reached your lips, but reached me. Some prayers were born in desperation, others in hope, thought faded. Though time passed and seasons changed, none of those sacred requests were forgotten. I stored them, not in some distant vault, but in the chambers of my heart. I nurtured those words, breathing over them, lining everything they needed to bloom at the right moment. Now that moment is here. You may not recognize it at first. It won't always look like you imagined. Some answers come in unfamiliar forms, shaped by the journey since the prayer's first release. But as you continue, your heart will recognize what your mind may have forgotten. These are the very things you once dreamed about, asked for, cried over, or quietly hoped for. The details have evolved because you have grown. You are not the same person who first uttered those prayers. Your desires have deepened, your vision sharpened. Now I am fulfilling them in ways that match who you've become. Don't be surprised when favor arrives in places you let go long ago. Don't resist blessings because they seem unfamiliar. Instead, pause and ask me, is this one of the promises? And you'll hear me whisper, yes, child, it's time. You thought some dreams died, but they were waiting, hidden in my timing, wrapped in my protection, covered by grace until you were ready to carry them. You once prayed for peace, now you will find yourself surrounded by it. You once cried for belonging. Now I am leading you into spaces where you will be fully seen. You once asked for purpose, now your steps are ordered with weight and meaning. You even prayed for things you couldn't articulate, things your soul yearned for, things that felt too big, too far, too impossible. To me, nothing is too great, nothing forgotten. I specialize in fulfilling long-hidden petitions. I am the God of remembrance. I do not let a single prayer fall void. I don't just answer. When I respond, I do it fully. You won't receive fragments. You will receive completion. What you thought small will come in waves. What you thought denial was is simply delay for your protection. What you feared overlooked now arrives in abundance. In the days ahead, as unexpected doors open and long-awaited shifts happen, don't second guess. Don't assume it's luck. Realize it's the harvest of seeds you sowed in faith, even when growth wasn't visible. Your obedience watered them. Your surrender nurtured them. Now my hand brings them to life. My beloved, what you just experienced wasn't a video. It was a divine encounter. You didn't just listen, you opened your heart, and I met you there. exactly where you are, in the middle of the silence, the questions, the longing. But don't let this be the end, because I'm not finished speaking. There's more healing, more clarity, more restoration I want to pour into your soul. This channel is not just content, it's a continuation of our conversation. Every time you return, you create space for me to whisper peace into your chaos, purpose into your pain, and light into your darkness. So come back often, subscribe so you never miss my voice when I speak again. Turn on notifications, not for alerts, but for alignment. And comment below, I'm listening, Lord. Let your faith activate what I've already begun. Share this message. Someone you love is drowning silently, just like you once were. Be the lifeline. Be the echo of my voice. You are not walking alone. You never were. And now that you've opened the door, I will never stop showing up. Return here as often as your heart needs reminding. I'll be waiting, with more truth, more love, more of me. You are seen, you are held, you are mine. And this is just the beginning. Amen.